So, for years, the public thought they knew the full story surrounding Archie, while palace insiders stayed unusually quiet. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Samantha Markle stepped forward with claims that reignited old questions and sent royal watchers into a frenzy. What exactly was being hidden, and why has it become such a talking point so many years later? The deeper you look, the stranger this story becomes. And if even part of these allegations is true, it could completely change how many people view Meghan's royal journey. Before we get into it, tell us what you think. Do you believe there are still important details about Archie that the public hasn't heard yet? Share your view in the comments. If you enjoy royal stories that uncover surprising twists and unanswered questions, please subscribe. Samantha Markle challenges Meghan's narrative. Alright, so here's what made this story impossible for people to ignore. For years, the public was shown a carefully polished picture of Meghan's world, a picture that seemed complete, consistent, and almost impossible to question. Yet the longer that image remained in place, the more one person kept insisting that important pieces of the story were missing. That person was Samantha Markle, and her comments continued to draw attention because she claimed there was a major difference between the public narrative and what she believed really happened behind closed doors. What made her criticism stand out wasn't simply that she spoke up, it was that she never stopped. While most people focused on royal headlines, interviews, and family drama, Samantha repeatedly pointed viewers back to the same issue. She argued that the version of Meghan's background presented to the world was far more carefully managed than many people realized. To understand why that mattered, think back to Windsor Castle on May 2018. As global attention centered on Meghan's royal wedding, one image quietly became symbolic. Doria Ragland walked alone through the castle grounds, calm, composed, and dignified, at a time when other members of the Markle family were making headlines for controversy. That image seemed to tell its own story without saying a single word. Many observers believed it helped shape how millions of people viewed Meghan's personal history. The contrast was striking. On one side was public family turmoil, on the other was a quiet and reassuring presence. For supporters, it strengthened the story they already believed. For critics like Samantha, however, it raised new questions. According to Samantha, the public was being shown only a carefully selected version of events. She claimed there were details, absences, and experiences from earlier years that never received the same attention. Whether people agreed with her or not, she continued making that argument long after others moved on, and that's what left many royal watchers stunned. The debate was no longer just about headlines, interviews, or even Archie. It has become a much bigger battle over who truly controls a public story and whose version of the past people choose to believe. Samantha Markle's decision to speak out quickly turned the spotlight onto her, rather than the claims she was raising. But why were so many people eager to dismiss her perspective? Was there more to her story than the headlines suggested? And what larger questions were quietly pushed aside as attention shifted away from the issues she wanted the public to examine? Let's uncover the intriguing details. Samantha Markle refuses to back down. So, the moment Samantha Markle decided to speak publicly, something curious happened. Instead of focusing on the details she was raising, much of the attention shifted directly onto her. Almost overnight, she was labeled, judged, and placed into a box that made it easy for people to dismiss anything she had to say. Once that happened, the bigger questions seemed to fade into the background. But here is what made the situation so unusual. Samantha was not constantly changing her story or making dramatic new accusations every few months. Year after year, she kept returning to the same points, the same dates, and the same gaps she believed existed between the public version of Meghan's past and the reality she remembered. Whether people agreed with her or not, the consistency caught attention. One of the subjects she repeatedly highlighted involved Meghan's teenage years. According to Samantha, Thomas Markle played a far larger role in those important years than many people realized. From the age of 12 through 18, he was reportedly the parent providing day-to-day support. He paid tuition at Immaculate Heart High School, encouraged her ambitions, and helped create opportunities that would later contribute to her success. Samantha argued that this part of the story rarely received the same spotlight as other parts of Meghan's upbringing. The debate became even more noticeable after the royal wedding at Windsor in 2018. By then, a polished public narrative had already taken shape, one embraced by millions around the world. Yet Samantha continued insisting that certain details did not fit neatly into that picture. She pointed to timelines, family experiences, and household memories that she believed deserved closer examination. What made the story more intriguing was not simply what Samantha said, but how little interest there seemed to be in exploring those claims in depth. As headlines focused on royal appearances, business ventures, charity projects, and every new Sussex development, the questions she raised often remained untouched. They were neither fully answered nor thoroughly investigated, and that is where the mystery deepened. While the world followed every major royal headline, another story quietly lingered beneath the surface. The public narrative continued, moving forward, yet the unanswered questions never completely disappeared, leaving royals stunned and observers wondering whether there was far more to the story than anyone realized. Meghan Markle's public appearances kept the headlines busy. But was the real story unfolding somewhere else entirely? Why was a quiet paper trail attracting attention behind the scenes? And how did Doria Ragland, long seen as a supportive and private figure, suddenly find herself at the center of growing questions that few people saw coming? Let's find out. Doria's secret paper trail revealed. While most people were focused on television appearances, celebrity friendships, and carefully staged public moments, something far more interesting was happening where almost nobody was looking. The headlines were busy discussing Meghan Markle's next move after stepping away from royal life. Yet a quiet paper trail was building in the background, and it would eventually leave many royal watchers completely stunned. What made the situation so surprising was the person at the center of it. For years, Doria Ragland had been presented as the calm, supportive mother figure, known for her work as a yoga instructor and social worker. She appeared far removed from boardrooms, business strategies, and corporate structures. That public image seemed simple enough, but behind the scenes, a very different picture was emerging. During 2022, while Meghan was reshaping her post-royal future and trying to establish a powerful independent brand, company records connected to a Delaware-registered business revealed Doria holding not one but 3 major executive positions at the same time. She was listed as Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and Secretary. There was no major announcement, no celebration, and very little public discussion. That silence only made people more curious. Delaware is not a place businesses choose by accident. It is often selected because of its legal and financial advantages, making it a serious decision rather than routine paperwork. To some observers, the filing suggested careful long-term planning. To others, they raised entirely new questions about who was really helping shape the Sussex business empire. The contrast became even harder to ignore when Doria was publicly portrayed as the cherished recipient of the first jar of Meghan's strawberry jam. It was a warm family image that attracted positive attention, yet the corporate documents told a separate story, one involving executive authority and business responsibility. At the same time, the grand plan was facing challenges. The Sussex brand had been expected to thrive through major commercial partnerships and independent ventures. For a while, that vision appeared promising. Then came a major setback. The reported $20 million Spotify agreement ended after just 1 season of content, leaving critics questioning whether the ambitious strategy was unfolding as intended or whether deeper issues had been hiding beneath the surface all along. A cancelled project can sometimes reveal more than a successful one. But why did Netflix abandon Pearl before audiences saw a single episode? Was it merely a business decision or a sign of deeper troubles behind the Sussex's polished image? And why were royal watchers suddenly turning their attention to a figure who had largely remained out of the spotlight? Let's unravel the details. Netflix cancellation sparks royal questions. A cancelled project can sometimes say more than a successful one. When Netflix quietly pulled the plug on Pearl before a single episode ever reached viewers, many observers saw it as more than just a business decision. To some, It looked like a warning sign that the carefully planned post-royal future in Montecito was facing challenges few people could see from the outside. The public image still looked polished, but questions were beginning to grow behind the scenes. Around that period, reports and commentary from royal watchers increasingly focused on one figure who rarely appeared in headlines: Doria Ragland. According to people said to be familiar with the household, her role had expanded far beyond that of a visiting grandmother. For roughly 18 months, she was reportedly a steady presence, helping support a home-balancing family life, public attention, and a series of ambitious business projects. What made the situation especially interesting was the contrast. While media attention remained fixed on contracts, streaming deals, and public appearances, some commentators argued that the real story was unfolding quietly inside the house itself. As expectations rose and commercial projects struggled to gain momentum, pressure reportedly increased. The discussion was no longer only about headlines or public criticism. It was becoming a conversation about personal strain and the challenge of keeping everything together when plans failed to unfold as expected. Several royal commentators later suggested that Doria provided a sense of stability that was deeply valued within the household. Others pointed to remarks made years earlier by Samantha Markle, claiming she had long described Doria as the person who often helped keep difficult situations from falling apart. Whether those claims were accurate or not, they gained renewed attention as new reports emerged. Then came the rumors that truly caught attention. Stories began circulating that the close bond many assumed existed between mother and daughter had become strained after months of constant proximity. Accounts differed, details were disputed, and none were fully confirmed, yet the speculation only intensified. By the time Doria reportedly stepped away from her extended stay, royal observers were left asking the same question. Had the biggest challenges facing the Sussexes come not from outside criticism, pressures building quietly within their own circle all along? Doria Ragland was once portrayed as Meghan's closest confidant and a constant presence in her life. So why did she seemingly disappear from the spotlight without explanation? What happened behind the scenes, and why did the silence surrounding her only deepen when unexpected developments emerged months later? Stay glued to your screen as the mystery unfolds. The mystery of Doria's disappearance. In the world of carefully managed public images, some of the loudest stories are not the ones people talk about. They are the ones nobody explains. That is what made the mystery surrounding Doria Ragland so fascinating. One moment, she was being presented as one of the most important people in Meghan's life, the trusted mother described as her emotional anchor and a constant presence around the Montecito home. Then, almost without warning, she seemed to fade from the picture, and the silence that followed, observers wondering what had really happened. What made the situation even more puzzling was what happened months later. In December 2025, a broadcaster on GB News made a false allegation about Doria during a live television segment. The response was immediate and powerful. Hundreds of complaints flooded regulators, a public apology followed, and the story quickly became national news. The reaction showed just how effectively a modern media operation can move when it decides something requires defending. Yet that same determination seemed nowhere to be found when questions emerged about Doria's apparent departure from the Montecito household earlier that year. There were no statements, no explanations, and no effort to address growing curiosity. For many, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Why respond so aggressively to one story while remaining completely silent about another? The clues, some believe, were hiding in plain sight. On Mother's Day in 2025, Meghan shared a carefully crafted post celebrating her children. Yet there was no mention of Doria. Later, viewers watching with love, Meghan noticed something else. In a series built around family, warmth, and personal connection, Doria's presence felt surprisingly limited. Meghan described her mother as a free spirit, a phrase that sounded affectionate on the surface, but sparked discussion among those who closely follow the Sussex story. By the time a second season arrived, the questions had only grown. Every detail appeared carefully chosen, every scene thoughtfully arranged, yet Doria remained absent. To critics, supporters, journalists, and royal watchers alike, The pattern seemed difficult to dismiss, and as speculation continued to build, one name kept resurfacing: investigative writer Tom Bower, a figure known for digging into stories many others would rather leave untouched. For years, the Harry and Meghan story seemed fully told, with every interview, headline, and revelation examined from every angle. Yet what if the biggest unanswered questions were hiding in plain sight? Why did a figure known for rigorous investigations decide to revisit the Sussex saga? And what hidden details did he uncover that others had overlooked? Let's find out. Tom Bower questions Sussex narrative. For years, people watched the Harry and Meghan story unfold and thought they had already figured it out. The interviews, the documentaries, the memoirs, the headlines. It all seemed familiar. But what if some of the biggest questions were hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with a very different reputation to start pulling at the threads? That's what made Tom Bower's involvement so fascinating. This was not a writer known for chasing rumors or building stories on speculation. Long before turning his attention to the Sussexes, he had spent decades examining powerful figures whose public images were protected by lawyers, advisors, sophisticated public relations teams. Again and again, he developed a reputation for digging beneath polished appearances and uncovering details others could not reach. So when he publicly announced that Meghan was the person he wanted to investigate, many people were shocked. Others immediately understood the significance. Bower was not known for making dramatic statements unless he believed he could support them. His approach had always been the same: gather evidence, speak to sources, connect the dots, and present a case that could withstand scrutiny. When Revenge arrived in 2022, the reaction was immediate. The book painted a picture that looked very different from the carefully managed image many viewers had come to know. Accounts from staff, reported conversations, and detailed descriptions of events were woven together into a narrative that sparked intense debate on both sides of the Atlantic. Yet what caught observers off guard was not only what appeared in the book, it was what happened afterward. A couple who had previously shown they were willing to challenge media reports in court chose not to launch a legal battle against Bower's claims. Equally striking was the silence from palace officials. No public defense, no aggressive pushback, just an unusual quiet that encouraged people to draw their own conclusions. Then came another unexpected moment. Bower suggested that Samantha Markle had been dismissed too quickly. Her warnings deserved a second look. Suddenly, old assumptions were being questioned. And as those questions grew louder, attention shifted toward an even bigger mystery. If so many people had misunderstood parts of the story, what did that mean for Prince Harry, the man standing at its center? For years, Prince Harry appeared convinced he had chosen a future built on love, loyalty, and independence. But was a very different reality quietly unfolding behind the scenes? What clues went unnoticed? And how did a story that seemed so simple begin revealing secrets Harry may never have fully understood? Let's uncover the astonishing details. Harry never saw it coming. For a long time, the story looked simple from the outside. Harry had walked away from the world he was born into, left behind old loyalties, and thrown himself into a future he believed he was building with Meghan. To many people, it seemed like a love story powerful enough to change the course of a royal life. But behind the scenes, a very different picture may have been taking shape, one that Harry never fully saw. What makes the story so fascinating is that the clues were never hidden in dramatic confrontations or public scandals. They existed in the quiet corners of everyday life, in conversations he wasn't part of, and decisions being made far from his view. Those close to the household often described Doria as a calming presence. Harry reportedly found comfort in her warmth and steady nature, seeing her as someone genuine in a world often filled with pressure and performance. Yet while he embraced that image, there were details surrounding business arrangements and corporate structures that appeared to exist beyond his awareness. At the same time, Samantha continued raising questions about the public narrative surrounding Meghan's upbringing and family history. For years, her claims were dismissed by many as the complaints of a disgruntled relative. As a result, the gaps she pointed to rarely received serious attention. They never reached Harry in a way that encouraged him to examine them closely. Meanwhile, major commercial ventures struggled to meet expectations. Deals that once promised enormous success faced setbacks, cancellations, and disappointing results. From Harry's perspective, those outcomes may have looked like ordinary business challenges. What he seemingly never considered was the possibility that larger forces were shaping events around him without his full involvement. Then came a moment that changed the atmosphere entirely. Not a television interview, not a headline, a private gathering at Highgrove House in Gloucestershire, England. In the summer of 2025, Buckingham Palace confirmed that King Charles and Queen Camilla had hosted Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet at the royal residence. The announcement revealed almost nothing, yet that silence spoke volumes. Suddenly, questions that had lingered for years felt closer to the heart of the royal family itself, leaving royals stunned and wondering how much of the story remained untold. Some royal stories begin with grand announcements, while others emerge from silence. So why did King Charles and Queen Camilla quietly welcome Harry, Meghan, and their children behind closed doors? What was discussed during this private meeting, and why did the palace reveal so little about an event that immediately sparked so many questions? Let's find out. Royal reunion, shrouded in silence. So, sometimes the biggest royal stories are not the ones announced from palace balconies or splashed across front pages. They are the quiet moments that arrive with almost no explanation at all. That is exactly what happened when King Charles and Queen Camilla welcomed Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and their 2 children for a private family meeting. The official statement was remarkably brief, offering almost nothing beyond the fact that it happened. No photographs, no details, no glimpse into the conversations behind closed doors. Yet that silence spoke louder than any press release ever could. What made the moment so fascinating was not who attended, but who did not. Prince William's absence hung over the meeting like an unanswered question. Years of tension between the brothers could not simply disappear during one afternoon. While many saw a reunion, others saw something far more complicated. Grandfather finally spending time with grandchildren he had rarely seen since Archie and Lilibet were raised in Montecito, far from royal life. For years, commentators, biographers, and family members argued that access to the children had become one of the most sensitive issues in the ongoing family conflict. The idea kept resurfacing again and again, often dismissed until events seemed to move in exactly that direction. As public attention focused on headlines, interviews, and royal disputes, another story quietly unfolded underneath. Questions about family loyalty, personal influence, and carefully managed public images never truly went away. Meanwhile, one voice continued repeating the same claims year after year, while much of the world laughed them off. Samantha Markle remained outspoken, while Doria Ragland maintained complete public silence. Over time, that contrast became impossible to ignore. As new details emerged and old predictions appeared surprisingly accurate, the narrative began to shift. Suddenly, what once sounded unbelievable no longer seemed so easy to dismiss. The story had not changed overnight. People had simply started paying attention to it. So, what do you think Meghan may have kept hidden about Archie for years? And why has Samantha's alleged revelation left so many people talking? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.